Hello, I'm hoping that this is recording because I've had a couple of unsuccessful attempts to get things recorded. So it's a damp July day. The sky's full of that sort of showery sort of stuff that looks as if it could fall into a heavier downpour at any minute. So I've got reasonably sort of well protected against the rain gear on. I'm hoping it doesn't rain. I haven't got far to go. Far too many. Oh. Typical. Just forgot to put the key in the ignition, that's all. Yeah, I've not got far to go. I just want to get out on the bike. Let it warm up a bit. Yeah, just wanted to get out on the bike, even though it's one of those days that looks as if it could be a bit showery. It's been raining steadily most of the morning, and I think there's some fairly hefty showers forecast, so I hope I miss those. Looks a bit full of rain, doesn't it? I have tried to do a video on a couple of occasions to explain where my bike has been and what has been happening with it, and it's a bit frustrating that the camera, whilst I thought it was on, has clearly not been on. And I haven't managed to get the recording done, and it's quite a long story, and I've told it twice now, so this is third time lucky. I haven't got millions of followers. There's probably 2 or 3 of you who might tune into this and may have wondered, well, where on earth there is his little video uploads, because you haven't done any at all. And there's been a bit of a reason for that, and one that perhaps other people can learn from a little bit. I don't know, we'll see. So I bought this bike in the first major lockdown that we had in May of last year, so May 2020. Whether it was a bit of a silly buy, I don't know. Time will tell. But it was certainly a bit of a impulsive thing. I think I'd spent too much time just sort of looking online and thinking of having a fairly new bike. My bike was a 2008 model, and it had nothing wrong with it, to be honest. It was lovely, apart from the fact that it wasn't really suited for the sort of roads that we get around here, which can be a little bit bumpy and not great. So I decided to look out for one of these, a little Triumph Street Scrambler, because I like the look of them, I like the styling of them, and I thought that with the way that they operate, it might be rather nice. This one came up, 2017 model, but it had only done 480 miles. And I thought, oh me, that's hardly anything, is it? It's hardly not even run in. Rang the guys at Watford, and they were doing a deal where, I think partly a sort of a lockdown deal, that if you bought before, I don't know whether it was the end of April, I think if you bought before the end of April, you got a £500 voucher to spend in the shop or whatever. And I got that knocked off the price of the bike, because I wasn't going to go to Watford. I knew the bike I wanted, I'd sat on one, hadn't had a test drive on one, but it's a fairly well known unit, isn't it? The Bonneville engine, and the sort of way it's set up is not unfamiliar. All of the people I'd read online really liked it. It's nice. I thought it would be ideal for me. Anyway, I took the plunge, traded in my bike, got this on a PCP deal, and first couple of rides on it, I said to the guys at Watford, I said, well, it stutters a little bit, it's got a sort of a fueling issue, and if you notice on any of my older videos, you'll notice that I mention it. It wasn't happening all the time, it was happening intermittently, and they said, well, it might be down to some old fuel, you know, needs to get through the system. Let's see how it settles down. It was under warranty, so it wasn't an issue. And it did seem to settle down quite well. Didn't have any issues with it when I took it to my daughter's in Leeds, for example. That was 100 miles there, 100 miles back, so maybe a little bit more. So I was quite pleased, but then it started happening again, and I went out and about on it during the summer, and I really look out for it. I'd just be aware that it might happen at any time. So I rang up Watford. I said, well, it's still happening, this fueling issue. And they said, well, get it checked out at your nearest Triumph dealer. And I took it to Watton, near Norwich. Took it there, and they put it on a diagnostic sort of thing, and they checked it out, and they said, well, there's a fuel sensor issue. Or it might have been a heat sensor issue, so a sensor of some sort. And they replaced that. I got a bill for just over £200 for the labour and the diagnostics. It's 90, I think. And I said, well, it's under warranty. It's a used, approved Triumph bike. It's under warranty. Oh no, you have to claim that back from the place you bought it from, they said. I said, well, okay. Went back to pick up the bike, and it wasn't right. I got down the road less than a couple of miles, and it was still doing it. So I took it straight back. Unfortunately, my wife had to take me. It was a 45-minute trip. My wife had to take me, she'd gone. I took the bike back and I was left there, and she hadn't even got home. I rang her up when she did get home and said, sorry, can you come and pick me up because I can't use the bike, it's not fixed. She was furious. So she got back in the car and she picked me up, and I left the bike with them, and they fiddled about with it. I don't know what they did. They didn't tell me what they did. Rang me up and said, yeah, we've test driven it, it's fine, Mr. Bliss, you can come and get it. I went to get it. I just about got it home, but it still wasn't right. I knew it wasn't right. So I rang the guys at Watford, and I said, look, I'm still struggling here. I've taken it to the Triumph dealer. I'm still not happy with the bike. And a guy there, I think his name's Kyle, really nice guy, really nice, really as helpful as he could be. He said, he was frustrated. He wished I could just sort of drop the bike in with him. He wanted to have a look at it himself. He really was getting a little bit frustrated with the situation, and he suggested I check out the battery. It's the next thing on his list that could possibly be wrong with it. So yeah, I was happy to change the battery. By this time, of course, the battery had been in the bike for 3 years. It hadn't done any work, it had been left idle. So I decided not to go back to Watton and trouble the people near Norwich. I mean, they hadn't fixed the bike anyway, so I went to get my battery from another place, another Triumph place near Peterborough, about the same sort of distance away, to be fair. They were nice enough to deal with, nice people. They all seemed to be called Steve. I fitted the new battery. It didn't cure the problem. That was £70 plus, but it didn't cure the problem. So I rang them up and I said, well, look, I'm not happy, it's still doing this. And they said, yeah, we'll bring it in and we'll see, we'll have a look for you. Well, by this time it was October, it was the end of October. And I said, well, you'll have to have it for a week because I'm working and can't get back until the weekend. No worries, Mr. Bliss, we'll have a look at it. They then went in to another lockdown. Beginning of November, we went into another lockdown. And they were all furloughed. And they were furloughed until March. I think they did go back in occasionally to learn how to use the Triumph Trident. And at that point they did talk to some of the Triumph sort of aficionados and got some more advice from them, because this bike was just sat in the corner. And anyway, long story is that they then decided that it might be a wiring problem, and that the original wiring was a bit tight and something was either bruised or even broken or pulling, a poor connection somewhere. And they got permission from the Triumph guys to do some rewiring. They've done it. I got the bike back in March, so this is nearly a year later, isn't it, than me buying it. And I have to say that since then it has been absolutely fine, no problems at all. Very happy. I love the bike. I think it's a great little bike, ideal for me. And these sort of roads are not great, as you can probably tell. There's quite a few bumps, and this bike is so much more comfortable on these roads than my BMW. I had an F800 ST, and that was a lovely bike. But the sort of little back roads and things that I tend to go on, and even these roads here, even this road, which is an A road, but it's not a great A road. even on these roads. This is so much more comfortable. It's a naked bike. It's not great if you want to go on the motorway, because you get a lot of wind blast, and anything above 70 miles an hour you begin to really hang on, and I think it would be tiring if you did a lot of motorway miles. But anyway, that was the warranty bit was interesting, because I rang Watford and they said no, this is a Triumph. No, they should have done the work for nothing originally. You know, that £200 plus bill that you got, you should not have had that bill. So I emailed, I think they were all off as well. I emailed them, and I did get a cheque in the post from them. So there was no quibble there, and I have to say that Triumph all round have been good to deal with. Their customer care is excellent. The one exception is the guy who told me that it was not covered by the warranty. Well, I mean, he perhaps didn't know. I mean, maybe he shouldn't have said if he didn't really know. But they did sort that out for me. I mean, I don't know what you think. That was a hell of a long time to be without my bike. It was the best part of 6 months. And I'm paying for it every month, obviously, with this PCP deal. Plus side is I've not racked up too many miles, so I've got plenty of biking opportunities ahead, because obviously you limit, don't you, the amount of miles you can do per year, and then mine is a 30-month deal, and I think I limited myself to 10,000 miles, so I thought, well, I'm not going to do 300 miles a month, especially through the winter. Well, I had, like I say, 5 or 6 months where I did 0 miles, so I've got plenty in the bank. I'm cold. You know, this is, I think it's the 3rd of July, and I am a little bit chilly, which is ridiculous. I've only been riding for 10 minutes. Yeah, one or two of my friends said, "Oh, you need to have a real go at them. They should be giving you compensation. This is ridiculous." No, I just wanted the bike sorted, and now it is. And it seems to run really well. I don't seem to have any difficulties with it. A few people out and about on their bikes today. I don't know whether there's a little thing on something. It's just greasy. Just greasy conditions, which is not great. Yeah, so these are the sort of roads that I tend to spend quite a bit of time on, these sort of B roads. And the sports tourer suspension is just a little bit hard for that, whereas this irons out these bumpier roads quite nicely, provided you don't want to go silly speeds. It's not a quick bike. It's I think you could almost call it a little town cruiser, couldn't you? The Street Scrambler, I think, is mainly for posing around town, to be honest, although some people do quite a few miles on them. So I'm up to 2,200 miles, something like that now, and I think the upgrades that they did in 2019 were probably sensible ones. I think they've improved the brakes, and I think that is they are They're not great, the brakes. I mean, they're adequate. I don't, never had any issues. I just had to brake quickly for a cat crossing the road the other day and pulled me up quite quick. You have to give it a good old yank. I think they gave it a little bit more power, didn't they? They got the horsepower, and I think, yeah, it's not a power. They're not powerful bikes, so maybe that helps. But I don't know whether you've noticed that difference. Probably changed the engine slightly. I've seen some people tearing around on these, certainly quicker than I would ever go. So, why do you ever need a bike that's quicker than you're capable of riding safely? I don't need one. It is really comfortable at sort of 60, 65, 70. To say, you get a wind, you can feel the wind now. I'm up to 60. You can just feel that beginning to. It's got a lovely exhaust note to it. It's small, manageable, handles well. Oh, we'll have loose chippings, are they? We'll have loose chippings down here. Yeah, a bit on the corner, look. You have to be so careful. It's got a lovely thrum to it, and I find it a great little motorbike for trips around the Norfolk area to the coast. Really nice. So that's the saga of the bike that was in the dealership at Peterborough for the best part of 6 months. This is always a bit loose chippings area. Oh, it's not too bad today. So let's hope for once that is actually recorded. Let's hope, because as I say, that was the third attempt at that.